Welcome to the Daniel Energy Partners In-Basin Observations. I am your guest host today. My name is Josh Lowery. I am joined by founding partners Sean Mitchell and John Daniel. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to be here. I'm obligated. I forgot to say it. I'm a little off my rhythm today. We are in the Flecha Azul podcast studio in Houston, Texas. The reason that I am your guest host today is this is a kind of a fun, little bit of a different podcast. We're just coming off of the 4th annual DEP BBQ in Midland, Texas, and such a success that I just felt like, we all felt like it would be a great opportunity to talk about the event, where it came from, talk about the sponsors, talk about the participants. But you guys are humble guys, and you're not going to talk about it you wouldn't tout your own horn, and you guys know I'm a very active and hyper guy. So I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted you guys to just really be able to share what the event has become and ask questions about it from a participant standpoint, and just where do you guys see the event coming from and going. So just, again, welcome. Thanks for letting me participate in the podcast today. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Recovered?
Yeah, recovered. I actually spent some time down in Mexico. Got away after the barbecue, which was nice. But I think I'm going to let John kind of start the program here with thanking our sponsors, and I'll hit some highlights on how this thing got started.
That'd be great. Yeah, so obviously this event's not possible without the support of the industry and our sponsors. You know, as a small business, these are not cheap events to put on, and so it doesn't get done unless you get the support. And so I would, first I'd like to thank James Garrett at Latham & Watkins. I mean, they came in real early. I called him up, said, hey, I got this idea, need your support, and he was there for me very quickly. And so a huge shout out to him and his team at Latham. Victoria Beard and the team at Piper Sandler have been fantastic. She was very involved in the planning and also executing the event, helping alongside Upright Digital, who did a fantastic job. And then there's other people that are significant contributors that came in early on. The team at Vulcan Industrial, very early to support the event. Mike Wood at Silvertip Completions, very early to support the event. And then, obviously, I can't forget David DeRode, who has been a supporter of this since inception.
Yeah, that's right.
And so he has been great in terms of also bringing people out to the event and just helping in the back. And so, there were so many other sponsors. I mean, there's a lot. The logos are out there on LinkedIn, and we could take all day with this podcast going through every single one. But those were some of the big ones. And the last one I have to mention is NCAP Investments. Again, came in very early. Just we called them up. Sean called them up and said, "Hey, we need your support," and they were there right away. And so I don't know. It's been a blessing, and we're thankful for all that they did to help us out.
Yeah, no, I mean, as John said, none of this is possible without the support of the industry and without the sponsor support. And it was unbelievable how quickly people jumped in and said, "Hey, we'd love to help." And really, this event, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. We started this back in 2017 just for kind of how we got here, right? John came to my office back when we were both at Simmons in 2017 in the spring and said, "Hey, let's do a cookout." We were going to cook for people in Midland, and he said, "Let's see can you get some investors to come? I'll see if I can get some industry guys to show up." And I thought for a while, I was like, "John, that sounds great, but how do we get people to go out to Midland just for us to cook at the Permian Basin, museum?" And eventually, John got me to the point of saying, "All right, we're going to do a field tour first, and then we're going to cook for them." And so I was like, okay, so I can pitch that to these guys in New York and Boston and say, "Hey, you guys come down, and we're going to cook for you guys, and we're going to actually go see some stuff in the field," right? Because that actually seems somewhat attractive to an investor out of Boston or New York. And got a couple of guys to agree to come, and then John kind of started sending some emails like he always does. Sent out a couple of emails. Next thing you know, he's got 30 or 40 people.
That was, yeah.
Yeah, right? I mean, and that was kind of the idea. It was like, hey, you get 30 or 40 industry guys, and I'll get 5 to 10 investors, and then we'll do kind of a bus tour, field tour event. And next thing you know, John's like, "Sean, I don't know what to do. Like we have over 100 now, And it just kind of grew and grew, and next thing you know, it was 350 or so.
Right.
I remember that event. There were 2 teams cooking.
Right.
I say teams.
They weren't even
teams.
No, we were just cooking.
Yeah,
there was no cook off.
It was John and who was your other?
We had to get Armada.
Armada Pressure Control. Tracy Turner helped orchestrate that.
And then Simmons and Victoria had to supplement food
from Katie's Barbecue.
Katie's Barbecue.
It's crazy. So this event really has grown. And so in 2017, that was, a 30 or 40 person barbecue cookout, turned into 350 people, our best friends. And then in 2018, it became, John got some feedback
what
from the
happened
industry.
is that, that day that we had to cook in 2017 was really hot, right? So cooking in Midland on asphalt, it was awful for, 12 hours during the day. And so I was like, I can't do this all, with just one other guy cooking. And so I reached out to a handful of my friends. I said, hey, would you want to come cook too? And so reached out to guys like Clint Walker at Cud, and he's like, yeah, we'll do it. And so I lined up 4 or 5 other teams or companies. It wasn't really the concept of teams yet. It was just like, can you guys send out a pit and some guys to cook and help supplement? And then I sent out a blast email to people, because I like email a lot. I'm old school. And I said, hey, come to the barbecue. We're doing it again. And I listed like the 5 or 6 companies that were going to cook alongside me. And I got all this, kind of negative feedback, like, hey, why didn't we get a chance to cook? All these company guys called me up and said, why didn't we get invited? I was like, well, it wasn't personal. And next thing you know, we went from 2 pits to 37.
Well, so let's let the backstory on that part was, so that's when we got involved.
Right.
And you said, can Galtway Industries, do you guys want to participate in this? We said, sure, that'd be great. And you said there's going to be 4 to 8 teams cooking.
Right.
Can you run it like a March Madness type of contest where you just basically you run it in a bracket? I said, man, I can handle 8 teams. We can do this.
Yeah.
This is no big deal. And back to Sean's point, as John does, he'll invite more people. Then it goes from 4 to 8 to 12 to 20. And all of a sudden, you get to 30. And it just kept growing. And it really started to freak me out. And I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I was on a tour of a shop. And a guy walks up to me, and who I was not working with. I was working with another group of people. And he says, who's Josh Lowery? And I said, I'm Josh. And the guy looks at me and says, what time is meat check-in? And I said, what is meat check-in? I honestly didn't even understand what he was asking me, the question. And he said, well, for the brisket. And I said, sir, I don't even know what that question means. And he said, well, who's running this barbecue? And I said, I am. I said, but I'm not really familiar with what a barbecue contest looks like. And he says, well, why don't you call KCBS, Kansas City Barbecue Society?
Yeah.
And so he gives me the number. I called Kansas City Barbecue Society, and they said, we have 2 groups of people that you can call. And they said, we have one woman who is in charge, and she likes to take everything and control of everything, and she'll do everything. And before she could get to the second person, like, I'll take her. Yeah. I want that lady. And that lady was Jennifer, who was
awesome.
just spectacular.
Right.
And really, that you mentioned that first, or the second barbecue, I should say, the one that turned into the kind of the first midway where the rain came, and really Jennifer and her husband saved the day on that, because they just loaded everybody in. But it's just amazing how, really the relationships of Sean and John, and just, then people jumping through hoops to kind of bring a vision and whatnot together. That's how that happened. And then all of a sudden, Kansas City Barbecue has been a partner for us the whole time as well.
Right. They've been huge.
Yeah.
So, no, that was fun. And then the following year, we got capped at 42 teams, which, because of space limitations, had to take a pause because of COVID in 2020. And then, thanks to the Rolling Sevens Ranch, more space, we were able to get, a few more industry friends in. And this year we had 57 cooking teams. And next year will probably be a little bit bigger. Not much bigger, but a smidgen. Well, I should also thank my wife, if she ever listens to this podcast, because she was out there all day with the barbecue this year, cooking and cutting meat and
fighting rattlesnakes.
And she was there to photograph the rattlesnake getting killed. And so anyway,
who actually killed the rattlesnake?
So the backstory is I had my wood pile behind the pit, about 4 or 5 feet away from it, and I stacked it up against a shed, a barn of some sort, and so just going over every 30 minutes, grab a piece of wood, not thinking anything of it.
God.
And my pit was between Freemire Industrial and ProPetro, and this guy's like, "Hey, don't go to your pit. There's a snake on there from ProPetro." And I said, "Okay." So I looked, and sure enough, it was a rattlesnake. Now, I've never seen a rattlesnake live. I've seen them at zoos, but this is my first face to face. and I'm a wimp. And he's like,
Everybody's a wimp around a rattlesnake. Let's just be honest.
The guy was like, you need to kill that thing. I was like, there's no way in hell I'm killing this thing. If you look at me, I'm a lover, not a warrior. And so anyway, this guy from Fremar Industrial, the guy who was helping out there, didn't think twice about it. Gets a shovel and goes right after that thing. I mean, that's a man's man, and no fear at all.
Really?
And we were watching him later on. This guy was pulling out briskets from the smoker with no gloves. Like, just
different breed.
Just a tough guy. Lynn Freemeyer has trained some really tough guys up there. But no, I really am thankful to my friends at ProPetria for not letting me get bit by a rattlesnake, and from Freemeyer for taking them out.
And your wife was the champ.
Sorry,
I said your wife was the champ.
She really was, and so I want to give her a shout out.
Yep.
So,
so it evolved. By the way, Texas Monthly called this thing, what was it? The
Woodstock for Frackers.
Woodstock for Frackers a couple years ago.
The 2019 issue of Texas Monthly, they came out in 2018 to the barbecue, and so did CNBC. Came out as well.
Right.
And they ran a little show during their power lunch or whatever, live from Midland, Texas, the barbecue. And then Texas Monthly actually wrote this big article called Woodstock for Frackers. So it got a lot of publicity then, and then it kind of died down, but the thing kept growing. Like in 2018, we had 850 people. I think 2019, our last one, we had over 13.
We think is around. Well, yeah, we don't actually know. People just showed up.
Right.
Then we didn't have as good a crowd control. We didn't have Mark Imicus doing crowd control.
That's
and
right.
setting up fences that we did this year. But we think we had around 16 that showed up. The registration was like 2,000 in 2019, and then this year, again, if our tallying was correct, it was just shy of 1,800 that showed up.
Yeah.
Well, and that number was controlled because of COVID. Could have been at least double that from everything that was planned and going on.
Right.
Sean mentions the publicity. This and one of the things you both have said is that people jumped on early. What does that mean, that people jumped on early? Does that mean they called you at the moment the last barbecue ended, or what does that exactly mean?
Well, my view is like good examples. Sean calls, and first I call Latham, say, do you want to step up and support this? And it was a very quick decision. Sean calls NCAP, very quick decision. Mark reaches out to Vulcan, knows them well, very quick decision.
Okay.
And that's what gives you the confidence to then go get the band and start planning this stuff, because these aren't cheap. And we saw the same thing, for instance, go back to Thrive when we did Minute Maid Park.
That's right.
Eric Johnson and Winston Strom, I mean, he came in, we took him to Minute Maid, he's like, I like this idea. And within a week, they came back. And again, that was that seed check, if you will, that lets you kind of go big. And so, and we really didn't have, everybody, it was just also part of it was the sequence of the phone calls, frankly. We probably could have called someone else and they would have gotten us back quickly. But these are the people that we just reached out to first. Mike Wood at Silvertip. With that day, he's like, I'm in.
So you guys are both having to keep separate people happy, right? You have different types of shareholders, if you will. Right. At the event, right? You have people flying in. You're giving tours of Midland.
Yep.
You've got your oilfield service clients that are not only at the event but throughout Midland. What was the feedback? Because again, I would imagine the clientele is both different from out of towners than it is the Midland guys. What kind of feedback are you getting when they walk up to this event and they're looking at? Because it looked like it didn't look like a small barbecue.
So I'll give you one example of one of the things that happened with the investment community. I had a guy come from Denver. And great guy. He works with Thiru and Christian Zahn at Source Rock. Paul came from Denver, and he said, when Christian and Thiru said, why don't you go to the barbecue? He literally thought it was a barbecue, like we were going to cook barbecue in the backyard, right? We went on this tour. We went and saw a frac job. We went and saw Champion X's, production ESP facility. And he was like, this is unbelievable. And then we actually got to the barbecue, and he was like, I had no idea that this is a cook. Like he hadn't really looked on the website. Like he's one of those guys that just shows up where he's supposed to be. He's going to do an oil field tour.
Just a busy guy.
He's a busy guy, and he's really about trying to find stocks, right? Trying to find energy stocks to buy or sell. And at the end of the day, he was like, "This is unbelievable." He goes, "I should change my flight." He goes, "If I hadn't already," He goes, if I'd have known what this was, there's no. I mean, he had to leave at 7 o'clock, right? So he didn't get to stay for the full show. But even from the time we got there at kind of 2 to 7, he goes, Sean, this is unbelievable. How do you guys do this? I said, well, we've got some friends at Upright Digital. I go, you got to understand, John and I don't do this stuff. Like, we have a team. We've hired Upright Digital, which thanks to you and Mark and your team. It's unbelievable. So John and I are not guys that execute barbecues, okay? And that's what I tried to explain to us. Like, we're not the masterminds of executing a barbecue and the logistics of all this stuff. We hire someone to do that for us. I said, but it is, I think the feedback I got from the investment community is this is freaking unbelievable. You guys are clearly way ahead of most Wall Street banks. And this
I
is
think
not
part
what
of it
most
is
people are
most
doing.
Wall Street banks don't know how to smoke brisket, and we do. And so that's where the competitive advantage.
Well, I'm not,
lies.
and again, I'm not trying to set up softballs with this
No.
question, but it does just feel that, and if I can be kind of somewhat liberal with it, but it feels like let John do exactly what John does incredibly well. Let Sean do exactly what Sean does incredibly well. And when it's really great to hear the guy say, "This is a great barbecue. This is not what I was expecting." What was great though, he was already complimenting the field tours long before he got to the barbecue.
Yeah, I mean, we're just lucky, as I say all the time. I think we get to do what we love to do, like you said. I mean, and what I love to do is bring investors into Midland and show them and try to educate them a little more than they were before they got there. And I think everyone that came and did the field tour said, wow, this was really good. And it was really good because they got to see some things they hadn't seen before. They learned some things about some companies they didn't know. And at the end of the day, that's my job.
Isn't that the core business of the value prop of DEP anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we do is we want people to know we spend a lot of time in the field, and you can see some good things when you're in the field. Sometimes you see some not so good things when you're in the field.
I don't think,
But at the end of the day, I think I get to do what I love doing, which is help guys make money in the business. And John is absolutely getting to do what he does best, which is he loves to cook barbecue, but he also loves to entertain the industry. We love to support an industry that we think a lot of people are running from.
Right. I think I don't necessarily look at it from the stock perspective. Like I look at our industry does a lot of great things, and we sort of have a bad rap outside of this industry.
Yeah.
So the more people
fair.
that you can bring to Midland or to Houston and actually sit down and learn what these companies are trying to do to make things better, that helps. Now, whether they buy or sell, I don't know. We don't have investment recommendations. We never will. But it's just good to get people to come down to Midland and to visit with the people and just learn. And so if you can combine that education with something fun, and in this with respect to the companies, what we try to do is like I go to a lot of trade shows, right? They all have their pluses and minuses. But one thing I've always noticed is you don't always tend to get a lot of the right people. Mm-hmm. It's going to sound terrible how I say this, but like if I'm an oil service company having an exhibit at a trade show, I actually want to see my customers. I don't want to just be seeing other oil service companies, right? So, how do you bring that entire community together? What we've learned in life is that people like to eat and people like to drink. And so we go to our E&P friends and say, would you please come out and eat and drink? And it's free. And they do. Right. And so now you got the customers there. So the service guys can actually see their customers. And if the service guys are there, then that means the capital equipment people will come because their customers are there. And if we can bring all three of those together, then we can hopefully bring in the professional services realm, which would be David DeRode.
Well, and you have
and
the
Latham.
E&P companies as well.
Right. Well, they were the judges. They were there. And some of whom were sponsors. So, I mean, thank you very much to, we had Endeavor and Diamondback and ConocoPhillips. They stepped up to support us, XTO. Great.
When you break it down like that, it is a unique, because, back to Sean's two guys grilling in a hot parking lot to where it is today, you have investment community, you have oilfield services, you have capital equipment, you have E&P, you have the services. I mean, you really have the complete industry decision makers in one place.
That's what we try to do.
And midstream.
And midstream,
I forget the midstream
Plains
guys.
All-American cooked.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
And that's we're going to try to replicate that here in 5 months at Minute Maid Park again. Yeah, so that's the objective.
Well, and I think the other thing I don't want to leave out of this equation is John and I kind of have this vision of these great events, but we're very fortunate. Again, we're blessed to be where we are. but we also were able to give some money back to the community.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's important
Right.
to both of us. And
That's what made it fun, the competition aspect.
absolutely.
It wasn't just some money. It was a fair amount of money. And what was the total amount? Because it was. How did the breakdown work?
Thus far, we were still. So we gave the winning cooking team. Well, we didn't give them anything. They came to us and we said, "Give us the name of the charity that you want to cook for."
That's
We
right.
did this for all the companies, and Best Pump and Flow, who won, they chose Wounded Warrior Project.
Okay, great.
So
charity.
we will be cutting a check. I think we do it today or tomorrow. I think Bill's on that right now.
I think that's where Bill is.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's where Bill
I'm
is.
stepping in for Bill.
Yeah,
he's handling some.
so he'll do that.
logistics.
And then we also made a donation to the Bynum School, a matching donation. And then once we can sort of digest what all of the bills were, what all the collected revenues, we'll make some other small bespoke events. We also had some prizes for people that
It's
were there.
substantial though. It's a substantial donation.
Yeah, no, I mean it
Yeah.
was. We were very fortunate again,
Right.
and I think we ended up giving 30,000 to the Bynum School and 30,000 to the Wounded
Right, that's what's
Warriors.
been-
I mean, so
That's incredible. And those are the kind of stories. Back to your point of that oil and gas does a lot of things that we just don't talk about.
yeah.
I mean, there's not a group of people out there that doesn't give back, and whether it be to the to the environment, to the
Right.
their local community, and they all volunteer.
Right.
And it's nice to be able to tell those stories in a way that just don't get told very often.
Right.
Well, and I think John and I are very aware that we're where we are today because of this industry.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, we've done a lot of hard work in our years, but at the end of the day, this is an industry that's been super supportive of us when we were at Simmons, and in some cases when John was even before Simmons, when you were at Key.
Maybe somewhat of a leading question that you might not want to answer, but there's an argument to be made that this might be the most important industry event in Midland on an annual basis, more so than some of the other larger trade shows and conferences. Have you guys heard feedback as such?
I haven't heard that specific statement made.
Okay.
We were blessed to have what we had. There are a couple good events. I mean, a lot of people said there's never been a barbecue like this before in Midland. Is that fair? So,
Yeah.
Are you holding back, Sean?
No, I'm not. I mean, I think there's a lot of great events out there, and I think this event doesn't happen without our sponsors and without the other people. So it's so hard for us to say, oh gosh, our event's the best. I mean, that's just not. I love you for this, Josh, but I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
We're gonna let the event
speak for
and
itself.
it take care of itself. Yeah,
That's
I mean,
fair.
just
Listen,
kinda
I'm only repeating what I've heard.
No,
Yeah,
okay.
It wasn't the
Many, many
it wasn't,
tens of
it wasn't,
people.
It wasn't the best event because I didn't win the competition.
Yeah,
Had
there we
I
go.
won the competition, it would have by far
So
been the best
Best
event.
Pump won.
Yes, they
for
did.
ribs and brisket.
Oh, geez, that's a trick
No,
question.
they won best overall.
Best overall.
They got second in the ribs and they were third in the brisket. So clearly they had some good barbecue.
They dominated.
They dominated.
They did
the
really
barbecue.
well.
The
Yes, they did.
barbecue was incredible.
Yeah.
There was some type of bacon cheesecake. Oh my God, it was unbelievable. It was absolutely delicious. I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, one of my favorite, and my wife and I walked around and ate at a bunch of different places, but one of my favorite was Baker Hughes had these small brisket tacos.
Oh.
And they were to die for.
Yeah.
I mean, if they would have had a brisket taco winner, they would have won.
Yeah, I
for
think
sure.
the thing that was the most fun for me to watch going into this was there was a handful of companies that actually went out and built a new pit for this competition.
Absolutely.
And so when people started sending, Cactus did it, ST9 did it, and I'm sure there's others I'm
Inquest,
forgetting.
they built a
Inquest
new one
did
too,
it.
yeah.
So that's what I loved about it. Was like, wow, these are some serious dudes. Spending a lot of money to build a new pit for
You
this.
see the Halliburton trailer?
It was
I mean,
big.
that was a trailer.
That was a trailer.
that was quite-
amazing.
Yeah. So
It looked like they took one of their old frac units and made it into a barbecue trailer.
that was, for me, that was fun to see just how some people just really went all out for it.
Well,
And-
one of the things too. So I was there. Our whole team was there from Tuesday through Friday, and setting up, cleaning up. What most people didn't see, and just you guys were busy, was it didn't matter if it was the first guy there to come bring their pit, which who know that's not the CEO
was
of
me.
the company. Well, other than John Daniel, bringing his own pit in, very few were the other CEOs of the company. So it was some guy coming in, and that guy all the way to the other woman or man at the top of the organization that came in was absolutely the friendliest, most helpful person the entire time. Didn't matter if it was their competitor, didn't matter if it was a customer, whatever it was, they jumped in, they helped. And it was just this sense of camaraderie throughout the entire week that I know. I go back to just the other question, when we were talking about what the event felt like. It, just from an outsider's perspective looking in, the industry needed it. It just felt great to be around your friends who you haven't seen in a while and shaking hands and hugging, and it was just great.
So I was the beneficiary of getting to go see several companies in Houston, CEOs across the industry, from Oxy to Conoco to EOG, you name it, to Marathon, and Phillips 66 on Tuesday in Houston and Wednesday morning before we went to Midland to go do our tour there. And what I would say is the industry is definitely in need of seeing folks. I mean, every meeting we went into, we had 4 or 5 guys in a meeting, and they were like, it's just so good to see faces again. I think people are tired of Zoom.
Yeah.
And I think, I think John and I are fortunate to be kind of where we are. I think the industry does need, the camaraderie and the getting together. And it's not just in the one-on-one meetings with investors, but it's also out in the field, right? I mean, so I think people were pretty excited to be out doing stuff again.
Yeah. Nice on.
Well, is there anything else that we've missed on this event? The food was amazing. The weather, we got a little bit of rain, but actually that rain was kind of, it stopped the band from playing on the big stage, but they moved and did an acoustic show,
inside,
which was great, actually.
I think the only other thing I would say is, huge thank you to, again, Upright Digital. Huge thank you to my partners, John, Bill, Bobby, Mary Helen. Mary Helen was a huge asset to.
Mary Helen never stopped working, by the way.
Yeah, she didn't. And I think those are the things that are behind the scenes that people don't realize how much goes into this. And obviously you guys do, because that's what you do for a living. But yeah, these things aren't possible without great people like you. So,
we've
really
got
appreciate
our group looking at us here, and I'm looking at Mark and Hinaro and Kevin. Really, it was pretty funny at one point driving the Gator around, just watching our team and your team. Back to Mary Helen, just never stopped moving for 2.5 days up until, and really through the show, our event, I should say. Everybody grinded this out to make the event great, and the rain barely slowed it down. Just proud of you guys. I know it's after missing out on 2020, it was really great to come back and see what it looked like in 21. Before we go, I know we want to pump up Thrive, which will be February 22nd through 24th in Houston, Texas, at
Minute Maid Park. Right. So we've got the contract signed. We're going down on Tuesday to meet with them again.
Okay.
The current framework is for clients and select guests and sponsors. We'll do the opening reception, which will have the batting practice out on the field. We'll have day 1 of panels on the 23rd, followed by batting practice after that. Day 2 of panels, and then hopefully, a good concert following that. So we will be, like I said, we're going to see the ballpark on Tuesday. We're working with an agent right now for bands, and I hope to come out in about 2 weeks and sort of preview who our committed speakers are. We've got probably half of those locked down, so it's a good list of speakers. And should be a good event. And so we would hope that people might want to bring some equipment out and have some booths and come be part of the fun.
Yeah, because it's not just a conference; it's an expo as well.
It's kind of everything.
It is. And I know that the Astros and Crane Worldwide, they're very excited about it. Like, that's a show that has turned into something, again, just beyond any of your vision for what you may have had it originally in your head. What it was to what it's going to be, I think, is probably much greater.
Well, I think when we think about it internally, if we can deliver an event that educates folks, that people have fun, or they can come eat and drink and kind of spend time with each other, with their customers, I think that's always a good thing. And so we're going to keep plugging away.
Love it. Well, we wish you guys the best of luck. That's it. I mean, to subscribe, let's give you a little plug. You go to danielep.com.
Or just call Sean or Bill.
Or Bill.
Or Bob.
Bobby.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Yep.